Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bold and Beautiful. Today, Deacon fears Taylor could be in danger from Sheila. And Electra disappoints Will. Steffi goes to Taylor's office. Sees that she is writing down notes about Deacon. Steffi remembers that Deacon is still Taylor's patient. Steffi gets very upset with her mother. She says, "You cannot be with Deacon. You know that, right?" Taylor is happy about the work she has done with Deacon. She thinks they can do more together for their jobs. Steffi is worried about what Sheila would do if she found out about Taylor and Deacon. Steffi tells her mother that Sheila is a person. Steffi says, "We both know what Sheila is capable of doing to Taylor." She is really scared that she will lose Deacon. Taylor says that she started to have feelings for him. She did not do anything about it. This makes her think that she can move on from Ridge. Steffi says again that Deacon is not a guy for Taylor. She says, "You cannot get involved with Deacon, he is Sheila's husband." Steffi made it clear that she does not want Finn to deal with her mother. Now she is doing the same thing with Deacon. They have to stay from Sheila. Steffi tells Taylor that she needs to stop being Deacon's doctor. Steffi pulls her mother into a hug and starts crying. She says, "I do not want to lose you, Mom. I really do not want to lose you." At Deacon and Sheila's house, Sheila tries to be nice to her husband. He does not pay attention to her. Then she asks him what is going on with Taylor. Deacon looks nervous. Says he is meeting Taylor today. Sheila talks about how Taylor's good for their marriage. Then she leaves the room. Hope arrives and she also wants to know what is going on between him and Taylor. Deacon turns to her and Liam. Hope says that things are wonderful. She reminds him that he is not answering her question. Deke told her about him and Taylor. Deacon is upset that Deke told Hope. He explains that the situation with Taylor is complicated. Hope says that Steffi mentioned Taylor to her well. The situation with Taylor is delicate. Hope does not want Deacon to deny his feelings for Taylor. Taylor makes him happy. If they really have something special, she will be happy for him. Deacon thinks Taylor is a great woman. He is a married man. Taylor had an effect on him and how he thinks about himself. Now he knows he deserves to be successful and to be loved. Deacon has started to have feelings for Taylor. He knows he cannot act on them. He says it is too dangerous because Sheila would get very angry. This makes him worried about what could happen to Taylor. Deacon is afraid for Taylor because of how Sheila might react. Sheila is really happy to see Lee in the restaurant because she needs to talk to someone. She tells Lee that she is upset with Deke and Hope. They are not being very supportive. That is making her sad. Lee does not think Sheila should be surprised. Deke and Hope may never agree with her. If they really care about her, it does not matter what other people say. Sheila is just thankful that Taylor is on her side. Will and RJ. At the Forrester showroom. Will walks up to Electra and RJ. Says, "So it is true. The golden boy is back." RJ says that he came back because his parents are together again. They talk about how RJ and Electra are not brother and sister by blood and that they had never met until today. RJ tells Will that he thinks his girlfriend Electra is really beautiful and very sweet. RJ says to Will that he will be staying around for a while now. Will thinks that they will be working together and says that they should not be like their dads. RJ says, "Sounds good to me." Then Will kisses Electra goodbye after they talk about what they will have for dinner. RJ watches them quietly. At the beach house, Dylan greets Will. They have a little chat. Dylan tells Will that he is making dinner for Will and Electra. Electra will make sure to give them some time to themselves. At the time, RJ is at work and he hears Electra talking on the phone to Ivy. Ivy needs Electra to stay at work late. When Electra calls Will, he tells her that she does not have to come over tonight. Electra starts to worry about what Ivy and the Forresters think about her spending the night with Will. Electra really cares about her relationship with Will and the connection they have. Will assures her he understands and disconnects. Dylan appears and asks if everything's okay. Taylor and Deacon are going to play with fire. This is what is happening with Taylor Hayes and Deacon Sharp. They are taking a risk. Will Spencer is also doing something. He is inviting Dylan to dinner for two. Taylor Hayes is in her office. Her daughter Steffi Forrester Finnegan is very upset. She just found out that Deacon Sharp is still her mom's patient. Steffi Forrester Finnegan told her mom that she has to stop seeing Deacon Sharp. Steffi does not want to lose her mom. She is scared of what Sheila Sharp might do. Steffi is crying because she is so worried about her mom Taylor Hayes. Taylor Hayes is in danger because of Sheila Sharp. Taylor Hayes and Deacon Sharp are playing with fire. They do not care about the danger. Steffi Forrester Finnegan is trying to protect her mom Taylor Hayes. She does not want anything bad to happen to Taylor Hayes. On Wednesday's B&B episode, Steffi is going to be really upset. She is thinking about her fear. Steffi is scared that Sheila will hurt Taylor or make her very sick. This thought is making Steffi very anxious. Deacon is going to meet with Taylor. Taylor might say that she does not think she should be helping Deacon anymore. Deacon might not agree with Taylor because Taylor is helping him a lot. The B&B episode will show what happens with Steffi and her fear of Sheila and what Taylor decides to do about Deacon's therapy sessions. Steffi is worried about Taylor and Sheila. That is making Steffi very emotional. Taylor and Deacon are going to have a close moment together. This means Taylor and Deacon will be taking a risk. Taylor and Deacon will not be able to ignore what Taylor and Deacon really feel inside. Because of this, Taylor and Deacon might end up kissing each other in a passionate way. Taylor and Deacon may not be strong enough to resist the feeling that Taylor and Deacon have for each other. As for Will, there is a chance he will invite Dylan to have dinner with him because he made a lot of teriyaki chicken and he just found out Electra Forrester has to work late. Dylan may say yes to eating with Will. They will become better friends as they have dinner together. Dylan will have a conversation where Dylan says she wants to do something nice for Will, but this will put Will and Dylan in a tough spot. Dylan will be taking a risk by getting closer to each other. Of course, RJ Forrester could use this opportunity to grow closer to Electra as well. Electra can't get away for dinner with Will, so maybe RJ will order her some takeout and share it with her during a break at the office. Whatever the case, RJ seems poised to strengthen his connection to Electra while Dylan bonds with Dylan at the beach house. Deacon Sharp paced back and forth in the darkened room, his mind contending with fear and dubitation. A storm of feelings swirling like a willy war hanging to gash piecemeal everything he'd fought so hard to cover. Ever since the rumors about Sheila Carter's minatory schemes had reached him, he could slightly eat, sleep, or suppose straight, his instinct screaming that Taylor Hayes, beautiful, brilliant, and the woman he'd come to watch for in ways he no way allowed possible was in imminent peril, and he couldn't shake the eating, frighting study that Sheila's preoccupation was about to escalate into commodity disastrous. The veritably idea of Taylor alone, walking into a situation she couldn't conceivably anticipate, transferred jitters down Deacon's chine, his hands pulsing slightly as he replayed every recent commerce in his head, wondering if he'd missed some subtle, minatory indication, some crooked signal that Sheila had been lurking in the murk, quietly conniving her coming move, quietly weaving her web of manipulation and malignancy. He knew Sheila had a long, dark history with the Forresters, a once littered with falsehoods, backstabbings, and violent competitions, and every detail he recalled only made his heart pound briskly, a barrel of fear echoing in his casket as he imagined Taylor, blissfully ignorant, walking into a trap that could ruin her life, destroy her family, and leave her vulnerable to the type of cerebral terror only Sheila sounded able of inflicting. Deacon's studies shifted fleetly from one horrifying script to another, Taylor being brazened in her office, cornered in an isolated hallway, or indeed worse, encountering Sheila while out in public, where a dramatic scene could unfold that would not only cheapen Taylor but also give Sheila the satisfaction of seeing chaos and fear spread like campfire. He envisaged the cold wave, calculating smile that Sheila always sounded to wear, that raptorial look in her eyes that suggested she thrived on the suffering of others, and it made Deacon's stomach churn with anxiety. He allowed about the times he'd been on the front lines of Sheila's manipulations before, how she had twisted situations to her advantage, and the study of Taylor falling into her analogous trap filled him with a hopeless urgency, a nearly suffocating need to cover her no matter what it took. The recollections of once competitions flashed before his eyes, the chaos in the Forrester manse, the pitfalls rumored in the nothingness of night, the sense of helplessness he'd formerly felt as he tried to help tragedy, and it all combined into a blend of dread that left him restless and jittery. He imagined calling Taylor, advising her, but what if Sheila was formally covering her phone calls, formally one step ahead, ready to twist indeed a simple discussion into a moment of pressure or terror? The study of being helpless, of watching someone he watched about being manipulated, hurt, or frightened while he could do nothing, was unsupportable, and he felt a swell of determination, a fierce defensive instinct that made him realize he'd stop at nothing to ensure Taylor's safety. Deacon's mind contended with strategies, plans, contingency measures. He could stake out her apartment, follow her discreetly, advise Ridge and Brooke, or indeed defy Sheila directly, but each option carried pitfalls, and he knew Sheila was cunning, changeable, and dangerously conclusive. Every time he tried to collude out a plan, his studies were intruded by flashes of Taylor's calm, serene face, her soft laugh, the gentle way she handled her family and her cases, and the discrepancy between her grace and Sheila's ruthless cunning only amplified his fear. Deacon's heart pained at the study of Taylor facing peril alone, unrehearsed, or unconscious to the storm that was still brewing around her. He imagined Sheila lurking in the murk, maybe formally planting seeds of disharmony, brooding falsehoods, setting traps, and manipulating those around Taylor to produce a script that would leave her insulated and vulnerable. Deacon felt a swell of wrathfulness at the injustice of it all, at the audacity of Sheila to intrude in people's lives so recklessly, but beneath the wrathfulness was a pulsing, raw fear, a visceral mindfulness of the fragility of the situation and the stakes involved. He knew he couldn't ignore indeed the lowest hint of peril. Taylor's life, her emotional well-being, and indeed the stability of the entire Forrester conglomerate could be at threat if he failed to act. Every time he recalled once schemes by Sheila, the recollections were like shards of glass slicing through his studies, her grim drive to manipulate, her skill in creating chaos, and the sheer unpredictability of her conduct. Deacon's mind ran through numerous academic scripts Taylor brazened by Sheila in an isolated alley, at a Forrester event where pressures ran grandly, or indeed in her own home, allowing she was safe, only to find the very walls around her hovered by Sheila's intrusion. The more he considered each possibility, the further his palpitation contended, the more he realized the depth of the peril. He was acutely apprehensive that Sheila thrived on drama, on the emotional fermentation of others, and that Taylor, with her trusting nature, could be a perfect target. Deacon's mind refused to rest, spinning in a constant whirl of worst-case scripts and insolvable computations, each aloud. More harrowing than the last, as he imagined Taylor going about her day, blissfully ignorant of the storm that could erupt at any alternate, and the more he pictured her innocence, her grace, and her adaptability, the further his casket tensed with a nearly unsupportable blend of love, fear, and despair, because he knew Sheila Carter was able of anything, her history an intimidating roadmap of preoccupation, manipulation, and destruction, and if he didn't act now, the consequences could be disastrous, not only for Taylor but for everyone she held dear, from her children to Ridge and Brooke, to indeed the sprawling conglomerate of Forrester creations that so numerous had offered for. And as the study of implicit desolation settled over him, Deacon realized he couldn't go to vacillate for a single moment, because Sheila thrived on vacillation, on fear, on vacillation, and he knew that any detention on his part would only give her the upper hand, allowing her to orchestrate a script that could leave Taylor emotionally shattered, physically risked, and socially lowered, a living testament to Sheila's cunning and ruthless drive, and that knowledge alone fueled a fire within him, a nearly compulsive determination to anticipate every move, counter every scheme, and ensure that Taylor surfaced unscathed, no matter the cost to himself or the offerings he'd be forced to make. As he allowed about the practicalities, Deacon realized he demanded further than alert. He demanded information, abettors, and a plan that could repel Sheila's unpredictability, and so he began constructing an intricate internal chart of every possible position, every possible script where Taylor might encounter peril, from the quiet halls of Forrester Creations to the bustling thoroughfares of Los Angeles, to indeed her own home, where a moment of complacency could leave her exposed, and with each passing nanosecond, his anxiety strengthened, pressing down on him like a weight, but at the same time, it stoned his focus, turning fear into a tool, a ray of determination that refused to be dulled by mistrustfulness. He imagined tracking Sheila's movements, noting her given connections, assaying her once actions, and prognosticating the types of manipulation she was most likely to employ, and as the possibilities multiplied, Deacon's mind contended, jumping from one script to another, each further tense and suspenseful than the last, and he knew that he'd to remain two-way ahead at all times, because indeed a single misapprehension could affect in Taylor being caught in a cerebral trap so devious and cruel that it could leave lasting scars. not just on her heart but on her sense of security and trust in the world around her. He allowed. About defying Sheila directly, about calling her Barranca, about trying to reason with her or appeal to whatever crooked sense of morality she might retain, but he incontinently dismissed the idea as too dangerous, knowing her history, her unpredictability, and the sheer exhilaration she deduced from causing chaos, and so he decided that circular action, careful observation, and strategic intervention were his stylish options, and with that decision, he began forming a plan, a layered strategy that involved watching, anticipating, guarding, and when necessary, stepping in at exactly the right moment, but no way so beforehand as to tip off Sheila to his mindfulness, because he understood each too well that one misstep could escalate the situation into commodity willful. As he considered the people who could help him, his studies turned to Ridge, whose defensive instincts and family fidelity could be a pivotal asset, and to Brooke, whose determination and keen mindfulness could round his sweats, but he also counted the pitfalls of involving them too soon, knowing that Sheila might manipulate their involvement, turn their concern into confusion, or indeed use their defensive impulses against Taylor, and so he resolved to maintain a careful balance, coordinating subtly, acting decisively, and keeping Taylor's safety as the sole, unwavering precedence. Deacon envisaged scripts where he could act as a guard, situating himself between Taylor and implicit detriment, creating distractions to divert Sheila's attention, and using his knowledge of her once actions to prognosticate where she might strike next, and as he allowed. Of each step, his adrenaline surged, stropping his senses, and compelling him to suppose briskly, plan more completely, and remain alert, because the perimeters for error were razor-thin, and Sheila was a master of exploiting indeed the lowest vulnerability. In the midst of his strategizing, his mind wandered to Taylor herself, imagining the subtle cues that might indicate peril, vacillation in her way, ganders over her shoulder, the fewest change in her address, and he realized that he demanded to be attuned not just to Sheila's conduct but also to Taylor's responses, to anticipate when she might smell peril, and to be ready to intermediate in a way that saved her quality, her autonomy, and her peace of mind, because Deacon understood that fear could be as damaging as physical peril, and he was determined that Taylor would crop from any hassle with Sheila not only unharmed but empowered, apprehensive, and flexible. Every study of Sheila's manipulations was accompanied by a visceral response in Deacon, his stomach interlaced, his hands gripped, his heart forging, as he replayed once hassles, recalled the chaos she had sown, and imagined the cerebral games she might employ, and yet in that same rush of fear and adrenaline, he set up a clarity of purpose, a singular focus that cut through the fog of fear and propelled him forward with unyielding resoluteness. He imagined following Taylor discreetly, covering Sheila's implicit approaches, setting up safe exits, and indeed preparing contingency plans in case Sheila tried to manipulate someone differently to reach Taylor, and the more he counterplotted out, the more he realized the complexity of the situation, the delicate balance between action and caution, and the high stakes that demanded every ounce of his attention, intelligence, and courage. Deacon allowed. About the subtle ways he could impact situations without Taylor noticing, nudging events in directions that minimized threat, and yet he also honored that no plan was reliable, and that the unpredictability of mortal jest, coupled with Sheila's cunning, meant that inflexibility and rigidity were pivotal, and that his alert had to remain constant, every moment, every commerce, every decision potentially vital in the unfolding drama. He imagined Taylor at work, concentrated on her cases, engaged in exchanges with associates, unconscious to the peril, and his casket tensed as he imaged Sheila observing from hence, calculating, staying for the perfect occasion to strike, and the study burned a fire of defensive determination in Deacon, a deep, primitive instinct to guard Taylor at all costs, indeed if it meant putting himself directly in the path of peril. As he considered implicit interventions, his mind contended with the possible consequences. What if a battle with Sheila escalated into a public scene? What if Taylor misinterpreted his conduct? What if Sheila turned the tables, making him appear as the trouble rather than the protection? And yet, despite the daunting possibilities, Deacon's resoluteness remained smooth, fueled by his unwavering belief in Taylor's right to safety, quality, and peace, and by his commitment to defy peril head-on, no matter how changeable or dangerous. The hours passed as Deacon's mind cycled through scripts, contingencies, and strategies, a grim internal routine that left him both exhausted and hyperactive focused, Every study dominated by the imperative to cover Taylor, and every plan tempered by the need to anticipate Sheila's coming move, outmaneuver her manipulations, and ensure that any implicit trouble was annulled before it could reach its target. He imagined waking abettors in subtle ways,